In 2009 decided that the best way to earn a few quid might be to rob a bookies with an accomplice of his.
They were obviously desperate for a bit of money, possibly just for drinking money, and they decided to carry out a raid on a bookies in the city centre.
This starts off as your normal heist in a bookies. Owen Comerford, 26-year-old, bursts in with an accomplice. The accomplice is waving the gun around, and the gun is a fake, but of course the people in the shop don't know this.
So when these guys ran in with their balaclavas on and waving this gun in the air, nobody's going to stop and ask, is that a real gun? Imitation guns look very, very real, and anybody that was in the shop that day, I'm convinced, would have an idea that that was probably a real gun. And anyway, you're not going to ask questions.
They didn't know what was going on. It must have been so daunting.
Two of them with latex gloves on. Looked like a well-planned operation, frightening everybody, staff and people who were in the shop placing bets.
Shut up!
Owen Comerford clears out 2 registers completely, and the 2 boys flee. It's pretty run-of-the-mill so far.
Their planning went well to a certain point, but then it just fell asunder.
They get the money and they get out of the bookies onto a main busy Dublin street.
In the whole of city centre, there's hundreds of CCTV cameras. There's probably a guard for every 10 metres of that area of Dublin.
And when they got out the door of the bookie shop, they turned right and made their getaway.
Hi, yeah, I'd like to report a robbery. Yeah, I'm at the bookies at Capel Street. 2 lads just held it up. One of them had a gun.
They successfully left the premises with €500 or thereabouts between them, and got out the door, you know, with the money in their pockets. Not bad.
And what you do when you run away from the scene of the crime, you just keep running. These lads, they didn't do that.
They don't head for a safe house or look for a hiding place. The 2 boys stroll nonchalantly up to a nearby pub.
Witnesses to the raid in the bookies actually could see exactly where they went, and no one can understand how bizarre it was that they, you know, that they thought that they could walk straight out of somewhere around the corner and that nobody would be aware it was the same 2 men involved in the crime. So immediately Gardaí arrived to the bookies and witnesses were able to point them in the direction and say the 2 of them just went over there.
Did not think that, did not think that maybe possibly the people in the bookies will see where the robbers went and follow them and maybe pass that information on to the guards.
Yeah, it was very sudden, it's a bit of a blur. There was 2 of them. This one guy, he said at the door when he had a gun, and the other guy rushed in behind the counter and just grabbed a couple of the tills. One of the customers was saying she thinks they went to a pub down the road. So, I don't know, they might still be in there, maybe.
Leave it with me.
Cheers, thank you.
All they could think of was, that was a hard day's work, I'm dying for a pint. So they run around the corner, just a couple of 100 feet, a couple of 100 metres, and decide, now we've done our work, now we have our just desserts. So they went in and basically ordered a couple of pints.
Well, to the people who were drinking in the pub, it seemed like a normal enough type of an event. They were sitting in there having a quiet drink in an afternoon, and one lad came in, goes down to a toilet downstairs. Another lad comes in and orders 2 pints of Budweiser at the bar, and they sit down. And it all seemed like a fairly normal kind of an event.
Why hide the money in the ladies' loo? Maybe there was going to be another accomplice, a woman who was going to come and collect the cash. Maybe they did think the crime through.
They sat down at a window and started to drink their proceeds.
I don't understand. If you just robbed a bookies, if you've just got a load of cash, why not order something bigger? Why not get a bottle of champagne? Why not have a big swishy meal?
Unfortunately for them, Gardaí arrived into the pub.
Hands where I can see them, lads!
Now, witnesses have told me that moments later, a guy came in, casually dressed, pulled a gun out and pointed in their faces. But it turned out to be a guard.
All right, you. Out first, slowly. Turn around. Up against the door. And you follow.
It must have been so frightening for the barman and for the other customers drinking away when, out of nowhere, a guy comes to the pub and points a gun.
They don't know if they're going to witness an execution or a robbery or what. So we've 2 scenes of mass confusion, one in the bookies and one in the pub up the road within the space of 2 or 3 minutes.
The 2 men appeared to be very calm about the whole situation. It didn't seem to bother them at all. They looked like 2 ordinary guys just sitting there having a quiet drink on an afternoon.
So they searched Comerford's pockets, they found some of the money, and the rest was found downstairs in the toilet, one of the witnesses told me. It looks as if they had it planned fairly well, but most criminals, when they make a getaway, They get a good distance away from the scene of the crime, but these guys just went up the road and into the pub, plainly visible to people passing by.
One of the most dumbest attempts at a getaway in Irish criminal history.
Suppose they felt they'd done such a good job of getting out of the bookies that they deserved a pint, but if they had have maybe just gone further away, it might have been a more successful pint for them.
Most people would think that a guy might learn his lesson from something like that. Okay, you've made a stupid mistake once, you might know better the next time. But Owen Comfort, at the age of 26, had 125 convictions under his belt the day he carried out that robbery. And investigators that I spoke to said, there's just no sense.
After the break.